Good morning, everyone. My name is Eva Robin. I'm the Climate Change Outreach Coordinator with Clean Air Council. We're a Pennsylvania nonprofit that works on air quality issues all across the state. So thank you all so much for being here today. I know the weather wasn't ideal, but hopefully it shows the strength of our convictions that we are here nonetheless. So why we're here. In 2014, while running for governor, candidate Wolf pledged to address the adverse environmental health impacts of oil and gas operations. Over the past year, Clean Air Council, along with many other environmental organizations, some of those in this room, have been campaigning hard to get Governor Wolf to make good on those promises to protect our communities. On January 19th, Governor Wolf at last announced a commitment to establishing methane standards for oil and gas drilling. However, while we applaud the governor for making this commitment, we know that we still have a long way to go before these proposed methane standards become a reality and before we can say that our communities are truly protected. Here in Northeast Pennsylvania, where the gas industry has been drilling, processing, and transporting its product for years, residents are all too familiar with the fact that Pennsylvanians have been forced to bear the burden of a reckless industry operating with inadequate government oversight and protections. So as these new standards are developed, we'll be pushing to make sure that nothing less than the strongest public health protections are included in the final version. Today in Harrisburg, almost 10,000 petition signatures are being delivered to the governor's office calling for just that. And here in Wilkes-Barre, we have 10 boxes, each representing 1,000 of those petition signatures. Pennsylvanians know what's at stake, and they demand that their concerns be put first. We cannot afford to wait any longer. We must ensure that these standards do as much as possible to protect public health and the environment, and that they are finalized as quickly as possible. Now I would like to turn things over to Diane Dreyer, Vice President of the Gas Drilling Awareness Coalition, who will speak about the need for strong environmental protections.
My name is Diane Dreyer. I'm the Vice President of the Gas Drilling Awareness Coalition of Luzerne County. It is rather ironic that as we present petitions to the Pennsylvania DEP about the dangers of fugitive methane emissions, leaking methane continues to spew from a natural gas storage facility in Porter Ranch, California. Since October 23rd of last year, massive volumes of methane have been leaking with no remedy or end date in sight. In an environmental disaster that has been termed the BP spill on land and has lasted even longer than the BP spill, the leak has generated as much greenhouse gas as would be generated by driving a car 5 billion miles. One of the talking points of the natural gas industry is that natural gas has less of an impact than coal or oil on climate change. While it is true that natural gas emits less carbon dioxide than coal or oil when combusted, that is not the whole story. Methane, the main component of natural gas, leaks or is vented during every phase of its life cycle, including extraction, processing, and pipeline transportation. Methane is about 80 to 90 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide over a 2 to 3 decade time period. The implications could be dramatic. Depending upon just how much methane is leaking throughout the life cycle of natural gas, methane leakage can turn the presumed climate change advantage of natural gas into a climate change accelerator. No one knows for sure just how much methane is leaking into the atmosphere. Measurements by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration at gas and oil fields in Colorado, California, and Utah found leakage rates of 2.3% to 17% of annual production. To put this in perspective, the National Center for Atmospheric Research concluded that unless leaks can be kept below 2%, gas lacks any climate advantage over coal. For a total assessment of leakage, Methane leaks from the production fields need to be combined with methane leaks from thousands of miles of gathering lines, the 300,000 miles of interstate and intrastate pipelines, and the 2.1 million miles of distribution lines in our country. A Harvard University study found that methane leaked from the natural gas pipelines in Boston and the surrounding region at 2 to 3 times existing government estimates. We commend Governor Wolf for addressing the critical issue of methane emissions from natural gas operations. However, the question remains as to whether the proposed measures go far enough, will be put in place soon enough, and will ensure the compliance necessary to avoid catastrophic risk to our environment. We challenge Governor Wolf to prove us wrong. We call upon Governor Wolf to recognize the regulations aimed at mitigating the dangerous environmental consequences of the natural gas industry, though critical to curbing the health impacts of existing gas infrastructure today, are not the answer in the long run. Pennsylvanians should not have to trade their safe drinking water, clean air, climate, health, or communities for energy. We call upon Governor Wolf to look in another direction, to look forward rather than backward, to move Pennsylvania away from the dirty fossil fuels of the past and towards the clean energy technology of the future. Paul Krugman, noted economist, wrote in a New York Times editorial that there have been remarkable technological advances in renewable energy, progress normally only seen for information technology. The editorial asserts that the numbers are really stunning. The cost of wind power fell 61% from 2009 to 2015, while the cost of solar fell 82%. That puts the cost of renewable energy into a range where it's competitive with fossil fuels. According to Krugman, the issue of intermittency of wind and solar seems to be of diminishing significance due partly to improving storage technology and partly to the realization that demand response, paying customers to cut energy use during peak periods, can greatly reduce the problem. And so, we call upon Governor Wolf to implement the tax incentives necessary to accomplish the goals that he himself laid out, which are to promote policies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, to promote clean energy alternatives, and invest in green energy technology and infrastructure, and to proactively address climate change and promote policies that are in the best interests of current and future residents, not special interests. We call upon Governor Wolf to make Pennsylvania a national leader in clean energy research, development, and implementation. Thank you.
Now I'd like to ask Al Rodriguez, a physician also with Gas Drilling Awareness Coalition, to speak.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to see you on a rainy day like today. It's very apropos. I'm Al Rodriguez, one of the doctors here locally. I'm also the president of Gas Drilling Awareness Coalition. Cutting air pollution from oil and gas operations is essential to protecting public health, and Governor Wolf's proposed actions to reduce methane and VOCs at natural gas facilities will go a long way in providing much needed protections. At the same time, there's so much more that we will have to do before we can say that we've lived up to our obligation to fully protect the health of those already impacted by this malady. While I appreciate Governor Wolf's effort to minimize methane emissions from oil and gas infrastructure, the proposed standards could also be supported by additional actions related to public health. Gas wells and compressor stations already in existence, often near schools, homes, and farms, have already exposed all of us to toxic emissions. The new standards will obviously not be able to reverse the real health impacts that people have already experienced. We need to take additional steps to aid those who have already been impacted and to ensure that healthcare professionals, like myself, are able to provide adequate medical care to our patients. Governor Wolf has already taken a pledge to defend the Constitution of Pennsylvania, of which Article 1, Section 27 is a part. The section provides for the right to clean air, pure water, and the preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values of the environment. Pennsylvania's public natural resources are the common property of all the people, including generations still to come. As a trustee of these resources, the Commonwealth shall conserve and maintain them for the benefit of all the people. With that in mind, I hope Governor Wolf will follow the precautionary principle, which states, if an action or policy has a suspected risk of causing harm to the public or environment, in the absence of scientific consensus that the policy or action is not harmful, the burden of proof that it is not harmful falls on those taking the action or making the policy. That simply states caution in advance. Or, as our parents and grandparents warned us, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Better safe than sorry, or look before you leap. If he follows this principle, it is logical that a comprehensive health study related to shale gas should and will be done. To complete a health study, a health registry must also exist. This is a necessary step for our health and for the health of generations to come. It is our governor's duty and responsibility to uphold our Constitution and provide for the safety and health of the communities and voters who elected him. Cutting pollution from present and new operations of oil and gas extractions is imperative for the health of Pennsylvanians now and in the future. I thank Governor Wolf for taking action, but urge him to move on as fast as possible to finalize the toughest standard possible. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much, Al. And now finally, before we head up to the DEP office to deliver our petitions, I'd like to bring up Audrey from Breathe Easy, Susquehanna County.
My name is Audrey Gustowski, and I'm on the Executive Council of Breathe Easy, Susquehanna County, a local organization focusing on air issues in Northeast Pennsylvania. Our mission is to protect air quality and health of communities across Pennsylvania's Marcellus Shale region from potentially harmful air emissions released through the process of shale gas extraction, production, and transport. Breathe Easy, Susquehanna County welcomes Governor Wolf's announcement to develop best-in-the-nation standards to address air pollution leaks from the oil and gas industry. These are crucial protections for those of us living in the shale fields who must breathe the pollution emitted from gas facilities on a daily basis. We urge DEP to develop and enact standards that reduce methane and VOCs from all new and existing oil and gas sources as much as is technically possible, and to do it as quickly as possible. I am a mother of 3, and I live within 3 miles of 3 natural gas compressor stations and have other gas equipment nearby as well. I have been affected firsthand by harmful pollution emitted at gas wells. I have experiences with throat constrictions from nearby flaring that resulted in a visit to the doctor. I also had 2 other incidents, one with dry heaves and another from burning eyes and nose. There's a growing body of research that provides evidence of the public health risks of shale gas operations. Unhealthy levels of benzene and formaldehyde have been found near compressor stations. People living in heavily fracked areas are hospitalized for heart conditions, neurological illnesses, and other health concerns at higher rates than people living in areas with no fracking. These are just a few examples of why we need tough standards in place to protect residents from potential health impacts. Beyond health concerns, fracked gas is devastating to the climate, especially over the next 2 most critical decades for curbing climate change. Methane is a much more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide over a 20-year time period. We know that hotter temperatures are associated with unhealthy levels of ozone pollution, which is linked to asthma attacks, cardiovascular disease, as well as premature death. So thanks, Governor Wolf, for taking the first step and proposing a framework for cutting harmful air pollution from the oil and gas industry. Now it's time for the Department of Environmental Protection to work with the public and advance the strongest standards possible as quickly as possible. Thank you.